G'day everyone, welcome back to another episode of The Good, Bad and Ugly. You're here for the round 11 review of the 2023 AFL season. What a round it was, upsets galore, saw some fantastic performances across the whole weekend. We'll get all into that. If you're going to enjoy today's video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, that'll be much appreciated, and let's get straight into it. So remember everyone, I can only go through 3 goods, 3 bads and 3 uglies, and considering how many goods there were of this round, it's hard to only squeeze in 3, but for me, the first one I've got to kick off is the Freo Dockers' big upset against the Melbourne Demons, or should I say, 𝐼𝐼𝐿 getting the win over 𝑛ARM with the Indigenous names throughout. Another fantastic Aboriginal round it was in round 11. Oh geez, the Dockers are really up and about now. That's 4 wins in a row and picking up a bit of a deja vu. Literally this time last year they knocked off the Ds in similar fashion. That third term they really owned it, the Dockers. I've been saying as of late, Freo are really starting to build on some good just sort of game planning consistency with how they're going at it. Their tools are playing really well. Pearce and Cox back there have been fantastic. Hattie Young's really improving his game, starting to really build on towards a really good year. Their midfield as of late is really starting to take control as well. They won the clearance count. I thought they were really good in the stoppage, and just in general, again, their ball use and their ball movement. Look, going inside 50, I thought they were a little bit inconsistent. A few injuries were quite poor because Melbourne actually, I have to say, defended really well, but they were just brutal. Their pressure is really good. They're strong off the turnover, and they're just damaging really around the ground. And yeah, I mean, their pressure forwards again, you know, 𝐓𝐡𝐞, he missed, he didn't kick a goal, but yeah, players like 𝐓𝐡𝐞 in there who was fantastic once again. Jai Amos, seriously, this guy is criminally underrated with his season so far. He is really starting to hit the scoreboard week in, week out. And Luke Jackson again producing another brilliant week of footy. Of course, Shaun Dux was subbed out with a hamstring issue. He was having a good start in the game. They had a bit of tools issues, but it just allowed Jackson to be isolated. Him ruck most of the remainder of the game, and he was honestly brilliant. We could see his athleticism. His follow-up work was really good. Kicked a nice snap goal too when it really mattered. It was just a resilient performance from Freo. The defence really stood up, and they really took good control of that game, even with 𝑛ARM really surging in the end. But just such a strong performance. We're starting to see again they're playing that ruthless style. Their engine in that midfield starting to take control. They're really building onto something well at the moment. Freo on an absolute roll heading into their bye. Moving on to the next good in the video. I haven't talked about this team in a while in the good category. I don't even know if I've talked about them at all so far this year, but they deserve to be in here. The Hawthorn Footy Club, what a fantastic win it was over the St Kilda Saints, winning by 10 points. And honestly, they should have won by more, kicking 12 goals, 16 to 12 goals, 6. At halftime, it was all even with the scoring shots again. I think it was something like, 5 goals, 10. It was a game they were pretty much in control throughout the whole duration of the game. And finally, after a few good weeks, or pretty much this whole duration of the year, of just really high competitiveness, again, their clearance game has been really good throughout the duration of the year too. They've just been really hard at it. I think their system has been really good. Finally comes to fruition with a much-deserved win. They've been close in a few games, but they finally get a close win heading their way. For a minute one, we could see they were hitting up those repeated entries, pretty good in the clearance, and they really smacked, I felt, the Saints around the ball when it really mattered. Thought their midfield again was fantastic. Will Day really having another really good performance. John Newcombe, as of late, I think, has been going really under the radar as well. And we all know 𝐼𝐻𝐿, he was just getting plenty of it. I think he had 22 intercept possessions, was just brilliant. 42 or 43 touches, his best game in a while. And we could see with that new role he's playing now, he's not playing on the number 1 key. He's sort of playing on that third best forward. So if he can continue his form, I think he is going to be a lock for the All-Australian, because that's just where he plays his best, really. And the most impressed thing I liked about the Hawks at the win is they were just so good in closing out that game. When the moments really mattered, I thought their ball use wasn't rushed. It wasn't, panic kicking or anything. It was calm. They really took good control throughout that last moments of the game. I think it was Dylan Moore was fantastic in the 4th term. That hit up was exquisite to 𝐓𝐿, who kicked the winner, and Bruce again, is on goal 499 now. He had another brilliant game. Yeah, I think just like, given their list and how they are playing, we can see, yes, they're still lacking a lot of age and experience, but we can see their future is really bright with another really good display from their midfield. And as a whole with their team, a fantastic win over the Saints, and they'll really take that. And can they now start to chalk up a few more wins? I think they could be maybe a potentially team that could be out of the bottom 4. Who knows? And for the final good in this video today, there's plenty of good ones. I thought Adelaide's win was fantastic. We'll love to talk about them. Just again, their forward half use, their pressure intensity was next level. That was a cracking game. But I have to put in the Giants, because this game right here, heading to Geelong and knocking them off, yes, Geelong out of form, but so are the Giants a little bit, and given the outs from both teams, you know, it still is a very tough task for the Giants, but that for me was the upset of the season, hands down. And apart from that late surge from the Cats in that fourth term, I was just in awe. Like, the Giants were in control for pretty much this whole game. It was just outstanding. They were just so tough in the midfield. That's really where I noticed it. Their stoppage work was brilliant. They got a lot of their goals from forward 50 stoppages. Toby Green was brilliant. Pressure was fantastic. They were able to force turnovers against the Cats. And, you know, apart from Toby Green with a masterclass, kicking 4 goals, you know, you had Daniels in there really playing a good brand of footy. His pressure was elite. A lot of their role players was really good as well. Connor Idoon, I thought he had a fantastic game. Their defence was really strong with Connor Idoon as a lockdown defender. Then you had Buckley on Cameron. Yes, Cameron kicked 2 goals, but I felt his influence was quite limited. I think Buckley's having a really underrated year. With Keith also back on the side, he did the job up on Hawkins, was brilliant as well. He really limited his influence too. So yeah, I just felt it was sort of that performance from the Giants where everyone contributed to produce a fantastic win, which is much needed because they finally did deserve one of those wins. They're similar to the Hawks, just talked about them before. Competitiveness has been really high. They really did deserve a win, and for me, it was the upset of this season. There's something with the Giants as well, playing the Cats 𝐓𝐡𝐞 The last 3 games there now, they've picked up wins, one in 2019, one in 2021, and now this year. There's something with it, and yeah, the Giants really, really impressive. Really happy for them to get that awesome win over the Cats. Huge upset. Move on now to the 3 bads, and yes, as much as there were really good displays across the weekend, it did come at the expense of some pretty dismal displays and efforts from a few clubs. We'll kick it off with the first one. The Carlton Blues, this game between the Swans and the Blues, pretty much the loser from this would have massive ramifications, pretty much being season over. I guess we can sort of say that now with Carlton. It was just pathetic, really. Their game style is in a hot mess. You could just see with, again, their entries going inside 50, they had a lot of short options they could have opted to go to, but again, it was the casual complacency of, oh, look at the outs the Swans had. They had Melican, they had Francis, they had Robbie Fox. You felt Curnow and Mackay. I even felt Curnow and Mackay could kick maybe 10 goals between them, but I just felt their pressure in their forward half was pathetic. Curnow, Mackay, look, Curnow I felt shot a little bit more heart, but Mackay was really awful with his goal kicking. Throughout many stages of that game, their midfield was beaten as well. However, they did win the inside 50 count, and they had a lot of periods throughout that game where they were able to get in repeated entries, but it was just the same old, really poor inside 50 use. That's just been the story the past few weeks, really. It's just so inconsistent, their method. It's either really slow, sort of chipping around and ball movement, or it's just casually bombing it into Curnow and Mackay relentlessly. That's pretty much how their entries was throughout the whole game. Yeah, the injuries didn't help. They racked up a few throughout the game with Nick Newman, Matt Kennedy, Ollie Holland's out as well, George Hewitt with concussion. But yeah, it was just a pathetic display. I thought they could really head into this game and get some really good use going. But again, it's just their role players don't really offer enough. Ed Curnow, as of late, has been really out of form. He just looks really slow out there. You know, Owies and Motlop and Durden had pretty quiet nights as well. Just a lack of intensity when it really mattered. And for me, the Swans just wanted that game more. I thought, yeah, they really got out-hunted. And yeah, just their method was just terribly inconsistent and poor, and really did deserve to lose that game. On top of that, with some bad kicking in front of goal. Now for the next bad in this video today, we have to move on to St Kilda, because their performance against Hawthorn, oh, you could just tell it was a game you felt they could just waltz into and pick up a nice win. But seriously, they're out of touch a little bit at the moment. Their past month or so, you can see they are starting to slip away ever since their pretty ugly win against North Melbourne. You can see, like, when teams open them up, they struggle to produce a plan B. They're really struggling to score now, and it really was a heartless display, especially in that midfield. I felt like their midfield was really poor. It's probably what cost them the game. You know, they lost clearances when it really mattered. They couldn't really defend the ball movement too well. And just in the end, it pretty much was the Hawks found a way to really beat their system. They were constantly going with a lot of those overlap kicks, a lot of really easy repeated entries as well, losing the inside 50 count as well. 43 to 58 really is poor. They really are struggling to score. And the scoreboard, of course, really flagged the Saints in the end. I really genuinely felt like this could have been a 30 or even 40 point loss from what I was watching. Just the Hawks waltzed around them all day long, really, in the end. The shining light, of course, though, Max King with 4 goals. His past 2 games now are quite decent, and as much as a good thing that is, they don't want to fall in the trap, though, of just having Max King as their only good forward or their only prime target, because I felt, Gresham and Jack Higgins had really quiet games today, and I thought they really lacked a good amount of input. Yeah, they have real dangers of slipping away out of touch in the top 8, and hopefully they will not produce what they did last year with a terrible second half of the season. And for the final bad in this video today, I've got to go with the Geelong Cats with another really disappointing loss I do have to put out there and in this video. It's now 3 losses in a row, and yes, you can talk about the outs they did have, but so did the Giants. They didn't have 𝐓𝐡𝐞, they didn't have Sam Taylor, the All-Australian defender, they didn't have Haynes, didn't have Josh Kelly either, but again, the problem arises without Dangerfield in there, and Hawkins and Cameron is contained and limited, not to their maximum influence. They struggled to win, and yes, the game was close in the end. I thought the late surge was good, but that's, what momentum can do to any club, really. They really struggled to grasp a good amount of control throughout this game. They really lacked to get enough intensity around the ball. They struggled to win clearances throughout multiple stages of the game. And apart from that, not really much else can be said. I thought it was just a really ordinary display from them around the ball. Not really good enough. Really failed to capitalise with a few of their inside 50s. Thought their defence in their back half was pretty quiet as well. 𝐓𝐡𝐞, I felt, didn't really have much of a good game. A few of their defenders a little bit out of form. Toby Green and Hogan were really able to get rings run around them. Also conceding 17 marks inside 50 doesn't help as well. So yeah, their midfield sort of out of form, and defending in their back half is just an issue that I saw the Cats really on the weekend. So 3 losses on the trot now, but you'd think, yes, when they get Dangerfield, they do lift again a bit, but losing at home to the Giants is a little bit of a concern now, and they're starting to slip out of touch within the top 8, so yeah, they really need to address those problems and hopefully bounce back in the coming weeks. Move on to the 3 uglies now, kicking off with the first one. This is probably a bit more of a positive ugly, I guess you can say. Just the amount of upsets we had this round. Not every game was an upset, but pretty much all the outsiders, odds-wise, did win the game. Swans were outsiders, they won. Hawthorn were big outsiders, same with Freo. Massive, of course, with the Giants outsiders. The Suns as well, there were a dramatic amount of upsets throughout the round, and I just really loved enjoying and watching these games because they were just fantastic. I thought the Suns really good again in the contest. Probably one of their best wins of this season so far. Talked about the Giants and Freo, of course, and the Hawks too, and yeah, the Swans bouncing back with a really much needed win. It's just a great round of footy when there is upsets galore. It just shows how even this competition is. I mean, if we have a quick look at the ladder, 3 teams are on 20 points and then 3 other teams on 24 points. It's going to be a really tough, close grind for probably the final 2 spots in the top 8 towards the season's end, perhaps. But it is, of course, something that catched a lot of our eyes throughout the duration of this round, the amount of upsets there were in round 11. Now for the next ugly in this video, I do have to go with the Bulldogs, and look, we all can, of course, debate about the ending of that game. Pretty much a little bit of the rub of the green with the umpires. You had Weightman flopping over, which honestly I hated to see because as a player I do love Cody Weightman. I just love the way when he's up and about, he has really good games. He's really an athletic player. He has superstar potential, but he has these games as well where he just flops too much, and for me, it was a really disgusting thing to see. I think Weightman should look a bit better into not diving as much, and maybe could get a bit of punishment for it, potentially with fines from the AFL midweek. But the main thing it was from the Bulldogs is when you just watch this game casually up until half time, you think, oh, the Doggies, had about 20 inside 50s that second term. They're down by 20 points. I just couldn't believe the wasted opportunities they have. You look at their list. You look at the star-studded players they have. 𝐼𝗗𝐤𝐪 and Norton have been trotted along this season fantastically well. But just look at those inside 50 entries. They were disgustingly poor. A lot of just ugly and not really low on the rise entries. Straight to Collins and straight to Charlie Ballard. A lot of wobbly entries as well. Matching the Suns in clearances, who are a very heavy clearance side. Winning the standard clearances as well. It was just a game that really got away from them. I thought they were pretty disappointing when the moments did matter. But just really, really wasteful, and I thought they would turn it up a bit. I was big on the Suns to win this game, but yeah, I think just throughout stages of that game, Probably the humidity did hurt them a little bit. Probably you could see they did get fatigued towards the end of that game. But in the end, they did lose the game in their forward half. Thought their structure was really inconsistent when the ball went inside 50. A game that really they should have won, to be honest, with the numbers they did provide. And again, it's something with them in top 4 that doesn't correlate very well, as their chance to go into the top 4 at the end of the round failed to do so. So yeah, I feel like they should bounce back, the Bulldogs. But again, that got away from them. But I just felt a few of the efforts around defending transition really did cost them the game as well, with the Suns taking their chances, especially when going end to end. And the final ugly of the round, pretty much just a carbon copy of what I said before, but replaced the Bulldogs with the Brisbane Lions. I do have to say, Adelaide's performance was brilliant. Their intensity is just so good. They are playing a perfect finals brand. They're building a fortress there at Adelaide Oval. I thought it was a great win from them. So obviously with the Lions losing that game, it does come at the expense of the Crows playing fantastic. But I mean, the Brisbane Lions, they kicked 1 goal 9. 1 goal 9 in that third term. The ball was in their forward half, I think 90% throughout that third term. It was just camped in there. Repeated entry after repeated entry. I do have to say, though, I do love Danaher and Hipwood. I think they've been really good this year. Cameron kicking 4 goals, but there was just something off tonight with their method. They really failed to take good control of that game, and when they did throughout patches of that game, they just looked to shelve themselves. I could see they were really just swallowed by the Crows' intensity and pressure around the ball. They failed to break free and failed to have really good use inside 50, struggled to lower their eyes as well. Hipwood and Danaher, of course, quiet on the night, and when that happens, they do struggle to play some good footy, so they are obviously big to their side. I think it was 7 goals 16 at 3/4 time. The more scoring shots, 66 inside 50s to 47, pretty much the exact same with the Bulldogs. They just felt really poor when going inside 50, and just apart from that as well, their defence just really struggled. They've always been off the ball, not really a top end side compared to their attack, and it really did hurt them in the end. I felt their midfield was a little bit quiet as well. They really struggled to get the clearances their way throughout duration of the game. Yeah, just a game that really got a little bit away from them, even though I'd still felt the Crows were the better team. They really could have potentially won that game if they were better with their inside 50 use and were able to hit the scoreboard much better in the end. So over on, there was another episode of the Good, Bad and Ugly for round 11 of this AFL season. Probably one of the best rounds so far this year, and I do have to say, a lot of upsets, a lot of really good performances, a lot of really good individual performances as well, as we are now heading into winter, so we're starting to see some good consistent displays from players and from teams, and really is close this competition, so hopefully it can continue. If you wanted to enjoy today's video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. The support's been really good as of late. I really do appreciate it, and until next time, I will talk to you later. See you later, fellas.